Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome, graduates, family, friends, alumni, faculty, and staff to the 2025 Harvard Class Day exercises. My name is Uzma Isa, and it is my privilege to serve as the first marshal of the class of 2025. Congratulations, everybody. Today is truly a special day. It is so wonderful for us all to be gathered here today, sitting in Tercentenary Theater, back where it all started our first year for convocation. What a throwback. I bet your first year self could not have predicted what the past 4 years have looked like. Recently, we've been hit with waves of realization that we're actually graduating, which means no more HUDs, no more Securitas, no more athletes on scooters, and most importantly, no more time with all of us seniors living together in the same place like this again. Let's take a trip down memory lane. We entered our freshman year during a heat wave, wearing masks, sitting 6 feet apart, and taking color tests for COVID 3 times a week. Some nights, we would gather by the river to hang out. Other nights, we flocked to Tasty Basty, at least until that bus crashed into it. At the end of freshman year, we voted to disband the UC. Instead of the 40-year-old undergraduate council, we now have the HUA, the Harvard Undergraduate Association. To be honest, I still don't really know the difference. When we returned to Harvard sophomore year, we started building our house communities, eating in the smaller dining halls instead of Annenberg, dancing at our house formals, and competing in intramurals. For me, this was in Lowell House! These new communities provided support in our lives while large university changes occurred. For example, we witnessed the Supreme Court strike down affirmative action, ending race-conscious admissions. Junior year, the chaos only continued. Conflict rippled across the globe. Our classmates fell victim to a doxing campaign, and Alan Garber became the 3rd university president during our time here. Senior year, these events culminated in a war on higher education. The government cut billions of dollars in research funding, slashing scientific endeavors and other educational opportunities. However, Harvard stepped up to become the first university to fight back. Through this adversity, the senior class came together at several class committee events this past year, dancing in venues across Boston, running 5Ks together, chasing each other with spoons in a game of senior assassins, and the ever so awesome White Lies party. Recently, underclassmen keep asking me what advice I have to share with them. I guess we're the old wise ones now. I always tell people to say yes more. And I don't mean say yes in the way that freshmen do at the club fair every year, somehow joining some combination of ACCG, CBE, HDAG, Model UN, the IOP, and PBHA. I mean say yes to trying a new hobby, like playing in a quad ball game. Say yes to a spontaneous plan, like driving up to Maine in an hour to see the Northern Lights. No, you don't always need to pull out your GCal. Or maybe you do, I know you're all very busy. As a school, we say yes to Harvard Yales, the most school spirit everyone shows, to Housing Days, the most house spirit everyone shows, and to Yard Fest, the most hype everyone shows. Saying yes to these events allowed us to experience great moments together. After we graduate, I encourage you to keep saying yes to new interests, new experiences, new adventures, because that's what life is all about. However, I also suggest saying yes to the things that don't sound as fun. We should also say yes to things that push us out of our comfort zone. I encourage you all to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Say yes to having hard conversations. Say yes to getting help if you need it. Say yes to opening your mind to other perspectives. Say yes to building bridges in a time of divisiveness. And say yes to speaking up in difficult situations. It is easy to stay quiet during these tense times. During college, we've witnessed much conflict, divisions, and uncertainty, which is ongoing. Just last week, Harvard's ability to enroll international students was jeopardized. We must continue to stand by our international peers because without them, Harvard is not Harvard. Through the ups and downs of the past 4 years, we have a lot to celebrate and a lot of people to be grateful for. For me, it's the following individuals. First, I have to thank my parents, Nasreen Issa and Amin Issa, for sacrificing so much of their time for me, pushing me to pursue my dreams, and supporting me every step along the way. My mom always emphasized the importance of education with the saying, "Everything can be taken away from you except for your soul and your knowledge." I'm not sure I'll remember everything I learned in Neuro 80 or LS1A, but you get the idea. I think my brother may fight me after this if I don't mention him, so I have to thank my brother Zahid for being my best friend growing up. I love you and I don't know what I'd do without you. I want to thank all of the class committee for helping put together a total of 53 events throughout the year and fulfilling our mission statement. As a refresher, our mission is to create memories, get lit, and make everyone feel at home. So I ask you all now, how do you think we did? I want to thank John Prince, AB13, as many of you recognize from his emails, for being the best Harvard Alumni Association liaison we could have. We appreciate you keeping us organized. I want to thank all the professors, HUD's workers, Securitas staffs, and other staff and faculty who have collectively made our educational experience possible. Finally, I have to thank all 2,000 of you for many things. For saying yes to Harvard, and before that, saying yes to even applying to Harvard. I know it must have felt intimidating for us, but we did it anyways. And look at us all graduating together from Harvard now. I can't wait to see the impact you make in this world. Thank you for getting meals with me in the dining halls, saying yes to all the fun memories we were able to make together, and becoming my family over the past 4 years. And now, I have the absolute pleasure of introducing the biggest social media influencer on this campus. I know there are a lot of you social media influencers out there, but this specific person is definitely the main celebrity. Do you guys all want to take a guess? Dean Rakesh Khurana. Dean Khurana is usually introduced as the Danoff Dean of Harvard College, Marvin Bower Professor of Leadership Development at the Harvard Business School, and Professor of Sociology in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences. However, today I want to talk a bit more about Dean Khurana as a person. Dean Khurana is kind, funny, passionate, attentive, and he's also extremely intelligent. I can say this because he quickly realized that there will never again be a class as cool or as fun as ours. So as we graduate from Harvard tomorrow, Dean Khurana will also be leaving his dean position. Dean Khurana has been a defining figure in our transformative journey throughout college. He is often out and about on campus, always chatting with students and family members when he sees them. As you can tell from his famous Instagram, he truly loves to connect with everybody in the community. Though he will no longer be Danoff Dean of Harvard College, we will always carry the kindness, joy, and excitement that he brings to Harvard for the rest of our lives. So, without further ado, please give it up to Dean Khurana.
Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Wow, this is just incredible. Thank you for your kind introduction. And good afternoon to our amazing class of 2025. One of the largest classes in modern Harvard history. So, tomorrow is a solemn day. You will be taking part in a 389-year-old tradition. One of my predecessors described tomorrow as follows. Commencement ceremonies are wonderfully ritualistic, full of incantation, and free of explanation. In other words, they're supposed to be self-explanatory. So thank you and good luck. No, I'm sorry. Just kidding. Let me give you a quick preview of what's going to happen tomorrow. So during the commencement exercises, President Garber will confer the degrees upon the university's graduates. First, the PhD and master's degrees will be called. Then, the professional schools will be acknowledged in the reverse order of their founding dates. The deans will make a brief case for each of their school's graduates. Each school will offer their own cheers and be waving their symbolic totems. Then, finally, the most important moment of the entire ceremony will occur. The college, as the oldest and original part of this university, will be called forth. And then we will get a chance to top them all. We will remind them of the power of our past and the possibilities of our future. So we're gonna make some noise tomorrow, right? Yeah. Right? Fantastic. Then, many minutes later, when you settle down, I will begin with salutations to President Garber. And by the way, can we give a huge round of applause to President Garber for standing up for what's right, for Veritas? I couldn't be prouder. So, after that, I'll also make greetings to the fellows of the Harvard Corporation and the Board of Overseers. And then, after these salutations, I will announce that each of you have fulfilled the faculty's requirements for the first degree in arts and sciences, which you will have, because it's my responsibility to make sure it's true. And finally, I will pronounce that, quote, each candidate stands ready to advance knowledge, to promote understanding, and to serve society, end quote. In other words, I will pronounce that you will have fulfilled the mission of Harvard College and are ready to go forth and become the citizens and citizen leaders of our society. Your families and loved ones will cheer, and their hearts will be bursting with pride for you. Now, at this time of year, I often talk with seniors who tell me they wish they could do college all over again. This time knowing what they know now. They say it with a kind of rueful wonder, as if they've just started to glimpse the richness of this place, just as it's time to leave it. When they are freshmen, I always tell students that at Harvard, the days are long and the years are short. As seniors, I try to reassure them that this very feeling of wanting to begin again is paradoxically a sign that they've been transformed. At the same time, especially this year, in my last days as dean of the college, I understand exactly what they mean. What would it look like to begin this journey again, only as the person you are now? The answer, of course, is that if you began again now, knowing what you know now, you would not be taking the same journey, but a very different one. A journey that begins with one purpose often ends with another. When you all arrived here 4 years ago, your purpose may have been to get an education or to go to Harvard. If you were to begin again now, your purpose would be very different because of who you are now. Until I went to college, I had never thought of my purpose. I started off college as pre-med because my parents felt that by becoming a doctor, a professional, my brothers and I would be shielded from the vulnerabilities that came with difference. but I didn't find the pre-med path very engaging. It was in an economics class at SUNY Binghamton, where I had started college, a course that I was taking for a distribution requirement, that I suddenly found a subject I loved. After getting back an assignment, close to the end of the class, the professor said to me, "You should think about transferring to Cornell." He thought I would do well there. I had never had a teacher take a deep interest in me in that way. And the next thing I knew, I was in Ithaca, New York, a new campus, a new journey, a new purpose. When I arrived at Cornell, I saw it as an opportunity to begin asking questions I had long been afraid to ask. Questions like, who am I, and who do I want to be? I began to ask those questions only then because I was ready to try and answer them. For the first time, I asked people to pronounce my name as it was meant to be said, rather than the Americanized version it had become. I realized that I had spent too much time thinking about joining the cool crowd, and I decided to shift my focus away from fitting in and instead to becoming more inner-directed, to use the books I was reading and the classes I was taking to outline a sort of code that I could live by that reflected the kind of person I had hoped to become. While I developed a small group of friends whom I love to this day, I ate most of my meals by myself. But I was never lonely. I would read Weber, Marx, Durkheim, books like Moby Dick, Crime and Punishment, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, John Stuart Mill, Hannah Arendt, W.E.B. Du Bois, James Baldwin. These were my lunch and dinner companions. I was figuring out that education was more than memorizing facts or getting good grades. I was learning how to learn. I was also unlearning what you've been told you are before you've had a chance to decide for yourself. It was seeing the world simultaneously as it is and as it could be. I stopped worrying about what people thought when they saw me eating alone. I started keeping a journal. I was on my own journey, just as you have been on your own journeys, and the road I was following had appeared because I was ready to follow it. Cornell is in Ithaca, New York, a place named for the fabled Ithaca of Homer's Odyssey. Ithaca, the place where Odysseus spends a decade trying to return to after 10 years of war and 10 years of wandering. A liberal arts and sciences education at its best is not a GPS, where you plug in your destination, money, prestige, success, and get step-by-step directions. Concentrate in the following subject, comp the following clubs, get the following recommendations, arrived. Rather, a real education, whether it's in a formal setting like Harvard or out in the world, is disorienting. It doesn't respond to voice commands. It doesn't tell you what to do. It gives you the quiet, often liminal space to ask, where is my Ithaca? Not the other places that people have decided where I should go. And what would it mean for me to choose it not by default, but by deliberation? You will not be able to take this journey again. But what you're about to do is even better. You are about to begin your next journey. And as you start out, I want to share with you my hopes for what I hope you will carry with you when you walk through those gates tomorrow. A part of every journey is defined by what we carry with us when we begin. When you started Harvard, you were carrying a heavy load. Your high school experience had been disrupted by the pandemic, and starting college looked differently from what you probably had imagined. You were carrying all of that when you arrived, along with the anxieties that always come with beginning a new journey. Am I enough? Will I fail? How will I sustain myself? There's a poem by the Greek poet Constantine Cavafy that I love, not just for its reference to Ithaca, and it has long served as a reminder to me of what that journey through college and through life is truly about. I found myself returning to this poem a lot this year, first after seeing the Odyssey at the ART earlier this semester, and second, as my own journey as a college dean comes to an end at the same time as your journey is coming to an end. The poem begins like this. As you set out for Ithaca, hope your road is a long one, full of adventure, full of discovery. Lastrygonians, Cyclops, angry Poseidon, don't be afraid of them. You'll never find things like that on your way. As long as you keep your thoughts raised high, as long as a rare excitement stirs your spirit and your body, Lastrygonians, Cyclops, wild Poseidon, you won't encounter them unless you bring them along inside your soul, unless your soul sets them up in front of you. In spite of what you carried, I saw you step lightly through heavy times. You rebuilt student organizations. You reimagined house life. You created amazing new student bands and re-energized the Harvard music scene. Your resilience set you in good stead for this journey, and it has prepared you well for the next journey. I hope that you will carry with you that ability to step lightly and lean into the excitement. And I hope that you'll be able to keep your thoughts raised high and keep your anxieties and fears in perspective. It's when you're able to keep your anxieties and fears in perspective that you are most open to seeing what's right in front of you and to serendipity. Some of the most important moments of our lives are those that were unexpected. If you were to take this journey through Harvard again, even if you were not the person you are now, but the person you were then, it would be a different journey because of this. So much of my life has been shaped by serendipity, by roads taken only when they presented themselves, unplanned, unexpected. As I mentioned, my family immigrated from India when I was young. What I didn't share was that my father had originally planned to immigrate to Uganda. But when the political regime there changed, rather than staying where he was, my father applied to the next country in the alphabet, the United States. A country that ended up shaping the future for his family in profound and unexpected ways. A country that always had room for all of us. See, we should be open to the unexpected and serendipity. Now, some of you have heard me talk about someone I once worked with. A person I think now is the most extraordinary human being I'd ever met. She had this remarkable way of seeing the good in everyone. She was brilliant, kind, quietly fierce in her convictions, and candidly, completely out of my league. I assumed, of course, that she would never see me more than as a colleague, friend-zoned at best. One day, after I had responded to something with my usual sarcasm and ironic detachment, I'll believe it when I see it, she looked at me and said gently but firmly, "Maybe you won't see it until you believe it." It stopped me in my tracks. I realized in that moment how powerful it is to be around someone who chooses to see what's right in the world, not just what's wrong. Someone who believes not only in possibility, but in your possibility. Later, in another conversation, she told me that my sarcasm and detachment was armor that I wore to protect myself from being hurt. And she wasn't wrong. I admitted to her that I sometimes was afraid to show who I really was because I wasn't sure that person was what anyone actually wanted. She looked at me and said, "I'm someone who wants that person." And everything good in my life I can trace to that moment. That amazing person, that hard truth teller, is my life partner, my Beyonce, my Stephanie, who's right out there. So thank you, Stephanie, for everything. So how you see your Ithaca, with what vision, with what values, and with what integrity matters enormously. But it also matters that you're open to traveling with the intention of seeing for the first time. In our community, it is easy to speak about the material markers of success and achievement, a title, an honorific. But Ithaca speaks more profoundly about the journey itself, about being present and open to what's in front of you. I was reminded of this when I was a faculty dean a few years ago. The Cabot House ceremonies had just finished, and I was with a just graduated student. People were kind of milling around. We were just sitting there at a table. So I turned to her and said, "What's next?" And without hesitation, she said, "I gotta go pack." And we both laughed. I was expecting some, here's what I'm doing after Harvard answer. She then told me she wasn't exactly sure what was next, but was grateful for her Harvard experience. Gratitude and receiving. Everything she needed was right there in that moment in the quad. I hope that you will always approach the world with the courage to keep your eyes open, to see with beginner's eyes, and with the curiosity to look in unexpected places, and with the determination to be like that young woman and be present. And I hope you will always carry with you on your journey the people who remind you to open your eyes and look what's in front of you. 4 years ago, when I met you at Convocation, I urged you to avoid seeing your 4 years here as transactional, to avoid seeing your time here as a series of hoops to jump through on the way to the rest of your life, and instead recognize that this is your life, and to be open to transformation. And you have. You all have given so much to this community, thinking for yourself, pursuing research, writing and creating, making real connections, friendships. As you pick up the next chapter of those lives, the choice between transactional and transformational will loom again and again and again. And again, I hope you will choose transformation. You'll run into the same choices out there that you confronted in here. The next credential, the next job, the next hoop, the next opportunity. But I hope you won't hurry the journey or miss the experiences along the way in pursuit of the next milestone on the path. You've already encountered the pressure in the questions from well-meaning friends and family members. What are you going to do now? Of course, you will figure out what to do. And we're all going to be so proud to follow your next journey. But wherever you go next, the important question isn't what you're going to do now. It's who are you going to be? One of the things that I've come to understand about my own journey at Harvard is that it's never taken alone. Universities exist today, as they always have, as communities of learners. We are here to engage in the shared pursuit of knowledge and the wisdom that often follows after the formal learning ends. We are here to take part in the extraordinary privilege of thinking for ourselves, of learning in a place characterized by intellectual vitality and in the lifelong pursuit of veritas. Being dean of Harvard College for the past 11 years, I wandered one more year than Odysseus, and felt a little bit like that sometimes. But it's been a journey shaped by thousands of students, including each of you, who have passed through our gates, each carrying their own hopes, heartbreaks, and questions. And it has profoundly shaped and been profoundly shaped. And I have been shaped by my colleagues, the college team, the countless faculty and staff who make Harvard not just a place of residence or teaching, but a community of meaning. I am now returning to full-time teaching and research, to my Ithaca. So in a way, I am beginning again. But it won't be the same journey. This time knowing what I know now. If I become a better scholar, mentor, and teacher, it's because of what I've learned from all of you. And although I will be walking familiar halls, I'll be open to new experiences just as I hope you will. Thank you for all the undeserved grace you have given me. I will carry you all with me as I hope you'll carry each other with you on your next journey. May your road be a long one, full of adventure, full of discovery. Semper Veritas.
Thank you, Dean Khurana. My name is Ethan Kelly, and I have the privilege of serving as the secretary for the class of 2025. And before I begin, can I just add on to Uzma? Dean Khurana, For 11 years, you have been a steady, thoughtful, and caring leader in our community. As this is your final class day as Danoff Dean of Harvard College, I think I speak for everyone when I say about how grateful we are for everything you've done, for the college, for us, and our Instagram feeds. Thank you again. Now, it is my honor to introduce our next speaker, Will Makris, EDM 2000. Will is the incoming president of the Harvard Alumni Association, a university-wide and global alumni network. Will has devoted more than 4 decades of service to the field of higher education, focused across 4 diverse business schools in the metropolitan business area. Most recently, he enjoyed 19 years with our friends along the river at the MIT Sloan School of Management and serving as a member of the admissions committee and admissions advisor for the MIT Executive MBA program. He has been a dedicated volunteer for Harvard University, beginning shortly after his graduation from the Harvard Graduate School of Education in 2000. Following years of service to that school, Will became a member of the Harvard Alumni Association Board of Directors, where he served and focused on efforts around graduate alumni engagement and onboarding new board members. He then served for 3 years as vice president for university-wide alumni affairs and is now the first vice president of the Harvard Alumni Association. Please join me in welcoming Will Makris.
Greetings on this most special day, this vibrant class of 2025. Welcome. I'm emotional, sorry. I'm Will Makris, Harvard Graduate School of Education, class of 2000, and a very proud member, holder of a degree in technology and education from the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And I am your incoming president for the Harvard Alumni Association. I'm excited to welcome you, your guests, and especially your parents, to today. Greetings on behalf of the 423,000 Harvard graduates living from around the globe, including the 140 extraordinary volunteer leaders from the HAA board. We know what this moment meant for each of us, and we know what it means for each of you. I graduated 25 years ago. However, my journey to Harvard began in the 1920s when my grandparents very bravely left their Greek villages bound for Cambridge. They literally walked down shepherd's paths, leaving agrarian lives and stone shelters. And unimaginably for me, they never saw their parents again. They had no formal education, but they were filled with the hope and the opportunities presented by this country, and especially its legacy of higher education. Papu, my grandfather, founded a 12-seat Harvard Square diner located where CVS is right now, known as the Tasty. My mother and uncle needed to work there as kids on nights and weekends. Yaya, my grandmother, the driving force for her children's education, walked them to work through Harvard Yard. She'd stop at the John Harvard statue, touch his polished foot, and say, "Study hard, Eleni. You can go to Radcliffe, and Nico, you to Harvard." And they did. So past president Allison Mendenhall wisely states that Harvard comes to you when you are ready. For me, that time came when I was 38. Although I was fully engaged in a rewarding higher education career, I knew it was time to get uncomfortable. I was accepted to the Ed School and, like you, joined a community of curious learners, determined leaders, and guided by an extraordinary and devoted faculty. I found my educational home there, as you have here over the past 4 years. After I graduated, my education continued at the Harvard Alumni Association. There I found an inspiring, supportive culture of thought leaders, mentors, thinkers, and creators of community, exploring new ideas together. HA embraces all individuals in building communities of real connection and learning. We listen for multiple truths. We share stories about our Harvard experiences and our lives after Harvard. We want to activate our individual and collective voices. HAA has hundreds of clubs and shared interest groups to support your personal journey and career interests. So, when in Melbourne, London, Amman, Saigon, Warsaw, Nairobi, or New York City, know that you will find communities that will invite you in and be curious about your journeys. So over the past 4 years, you have overcome extraordinary consequences of a pandemic while witnessing the challenges facing great institutions like Harvard. We all have reflected on the value of higher education and the importance of giving voice to those values. On May 19th, in a letter to all alumni entitled, "How Can You Help?" President Alan Garber invited us to, quote, advocate for higher education, advocate for Harvard. Speak with your friends, acquaintances, and colleagues about the role of higher education as an engine of American progress and a force for good in people's lives. I'm choosing to activate my Harvard voice. It goes something like this. I believe in the promise of higher education. I am the grandson of 4 Greek immigrants who believe that education makes a difference. I am the son of Helen Radcliffe 50, a devoted university English teacher, and George, a lifelong volunteer and leader in university athletics. I honor their journeys and how it shaped my future. My Harvard education shifted the axis upon which I rotate, just enough to see things differently. I question openly. I listen like I'd never listened before. I grew as a person. By volunteering, I have found an incredible global alumni group. We can connect in support of each other and of Harvard. And we are proud to say, I am a Harvard graduate. Own it. It's now your turn. I hope you will activate your voice and tell your stories unique to your experience of Harvard. Higher education needs your voice. Harvard needs your voice. The world needs your voice. So, tomorrow, take time to breathe. Hear the words of wisdom from the dais. Wave to your parents. Smile at your friends. And listen to the birds. They're always here in Tercentenary Theater. And as you commence, I invite you to engage with HAA as soon as tomorrow or when you're ready. Your alumni community is here for you. I am here for you. Well done and welcome.
Good afternoon, class of 2025. We're your Harvard College Fund Marshals, and we're so excited to be here with you today. My name is Ashley Hernandez.
I'm Talia Hanley.
I'm Zaki Lakhani. Hi, Mom.
I'm Elvira Tiagi.
I'm Rakesh Avram.
My name is Con Lee. All right, class of 2025, let's take a trip down a memory lane, okay? Stand up if you can, if you have been to a classroom to table session with your professor. All right, I'll do you one better. If you have pulled an all-nighter at Lamont. I'll do you one even better. If you have attended a house formal and gotten a drink spilled on you. Everyone should stand up now, come on.
Now, many of these moments were made possible by the Harvard College Fund, or ACF, as the only fund solely dedicated to supporting us, the students, and as your ACF marshals ourselves. We've built on the spirit of collective support that ACF embodies bringing the class together this year. From Senior Olympics and spinning the trivia wheel as senior brunch, where you got to see your freshman year friends and pretend you've actually changed since then, to trivia night, senior strides, and dinner with strangers, where new friendships took root over shared meals and laughter.
The Harvard College Fund has been the quiet, behind-the-scenes player in our entire undergraduate experience. Like the friend who Venmos you $5 for coffee or sends you their lecture notes right before the quiz. It helps to fund things like the lab spaces where we conducted thesis research, house renovations, steins, and even makes it possible for you to study abroad, or at least come back from a semester in Europe with a questionable accent. It's the not-so-secret ingredient behind many of the things that make Harvard, well, Harvard.
And let's not forget, the Harvard College Fund makes our Harvard experience consistent across generations with funds that get put immediately to use. It's what turns pre-orientation programs like FOP and FUP from silly icebreakers to lifelong friendships. It's what keeps our libraries open 24/7 for those, I swear I'll start earlier next time, all-nighters. And it funds those gen ed pilot courses that have us questioning our entire academic trajectory. Importantly, in this current climate, it also ensures that life-saving research across Harvard labs continue even amidst the circumstances. And the Harvard College Fund is a major reason why the college is able to award over $250 million in financial aid every single year.
But it's more than just numbers. As we say goodbye to our houses and the friends who made them feel like home, we begin to understand what it means to be alumni. It's about carrying forward the experiences and the support that shaped us. One of the most meaningful ways we can do so is through the Harvard College Fund. It's how we help ensure that future students can have the same life-changing opportunities we did. And while we might not be ready to start writing checks today, trust me, we get it. Just look at our Jefe's and Felipe's receipts. Just know that every gift, no matter how small, can make a difference when we do it together.
So as we prepare to toss our caps and begin alumni life, we hope you will also consider joining the tens of thousands of alumni, parents, and friends who support the HCF each year. Remember, this isn't just about funding programs. It's about keeping this place special for the next generation of Harvard students. Your involvement isn't just a gesture. We've seen firsthand that every gift, regardless of amount, truly matters. So as we move forward, let's pay it forward by supporting the Harvard College Fund and enable future students to have the same transformative experiences like the ones that we've cherished. After all, one day you'll be back here in your 40s, walking through the yard and explaining to your kids how you used to pull all-nighters, survive on Hud's coffee, and crush it on the house dance floor.
Congratulations to the legendary class of 2025.
Go forth. Go forth.
Do great things.
And don't forget to Venmo Harvard.
Hi there, I'm Matthew.
And I'm Angie. And we are two of the program marshals of 2025.
We are incredibly excited to announce the Harvard Oration speaker this year, Nalan Hove. Nalan is a computer science concentrator living in Winthrop House from my neighboring country of Zimbabwe.
I have been lucky to meet Nalan because I am a fellow Winthropian, but I don't know if we've ever met formally, but I've always been graced with a kind smile and a warm greeting. He's brought that same spirit to so many parts of campus life, from directing summer camps at the Cambridge Youth Enrichment Program, to volunteering through Chair and Stride program with PBHA, and serving on the Winthrop House Committee.
And beyond that, Nalan has been a key member of the Harvard Undergraduate Association, the Harvard African Students Association, the Woodbridge International Society, shout out Woodbridge, and so many more things. You know, but what really stands out to me when I think about Nalan is just the intentionality that he brings with every step and with every organization that he's a part of. He really lives by this motto that he who has a why can bear almost any how.
So, without further ado, please join us in welcoming a coder, a connector, and a deeply thoughtful human being. We're so proud to call him our classmate, Nalan Hove.
How you doing, guys? All right. So surreal. I would like to welcome my parents who are here today, who also recently found out that I'm speaking at this very moment. They flew all the way from Zimbabwe, and it's their first time here in the United States, so help me welcome them. Okay. Imagine stepping into a classroom that hums not with the quiet members of students settling down before class starts, but with the warmth of kindred spirits united across decades and continents. Alumni flash their faces on Zoom from Montreal to Texas, colleagues in the back conversing. And in the center of it all is Professor Harry Lewis, the man whose eyes have sparked more aha moments than any textbook. He's offering one last lecture before he closes the door on a lifetime of teaching. The last reading he assigns to the class is The True Harvard, a 1903 speech by psychologist philosopher William James, the namesake of the tower that shadows the yard. In this reading that you actually happen to do before class, James is arguing that Harvard's greatness lives not in its trophies or towers, but in the students he held as our undisciplinables, insisting, and I quote, "The day when Harvard shall stamp a single hard and fast type of character upon your children will be that of her downfall." He was referring to the ones who dare to think alone, refuse easy answers, and choose the harder right over the easy wrong. In his words, you hear an invitation to be brave enough to diverge, even to stand alone if that's the price of honest inquiry. Today, I invite you to take up that call, to revisit the moment Harvard first asked you to meet the unfamiliar with courage and chart our course where those lofty ideals would come alive. Think for a moment and travel back to August 2021, when you first stepped onto Harvard Yard into a wall of humid air and uncharted possibilities. Remember that mix of excitement and uncertainty? Could you belong here? Could you find your path amid so many brilliant minds and the surging current that defines this place? I remember everything feeling disorientingly new. The brick labyrinth of the yard, the musty ride of first-year dorms without air conditioning, the smell of Strauss B11, the dim glow of yard ops desk in World, and the blur of masked faces queuing for packages in the Science Center. For a heartbeat, the miles, geographic or otherwise, collapsed into one small circle of possibility. 4 years later, the belonging question has led us through PSATs and PCR swabs, victories and setbacks, moments of clarity and moments of doubt, and ultimately to this moment where the only thing that's more thrilling than a professor's last lesson is the first step we're going to take beyond these walls onto a stage that none of us has set foot on before. Looking back at our 4 years, our first year was ruled by masks and COVID tests that some of us forgot to do and had to get an email from the resident dean. And distancing rules that turned Annenberg into more than just a dining hall. It turned into a proving ground for first-year friendships, inside jokes, and exchange of phone numbers that we actually never used. Then came blocking, strengthening some bonds, and let's be honest, stress testing others. I still remember breaking the news to my roommates that I got Winthrop, which is obviously the best house. Yeah, their less than thrilled faces, bound for Kirkland, Elliott, and Cabot, proved that we all accepted a housing fate. Sophomore year swept in, and while it was the toughest year academically, it finally gave us a taste of full campus life. We had unrestricted brain breaks, bigger rooms, frequent fire alarms, steins that somehow always ran out of food, and most importantly, we finally had our full Harvard intro. By junior year, we pretended we found our rhythm. Most of us were at the helm of club leadership. We took harder and required classes for our concentrations, and at that stage, it felt more like a minor miracle if your entire blogging group was still speaking to each other. We celebrate the tiny victories that make this place feel like home. The imposter syndrome never vanished, but we just learned to share space with it. Senior year settled into a steadier rhythm, less frantic than before, yet still defined by deadlines, debates, and the ever-present buzz of what comes next. We also had Natasha Bedingfield come and perform at Yard First, reminding us that yes, we are seniors staring down at life after commencement, but the best pages of our story are still unwritten. All these moments, big and small, were threaded together by one ongoing shuffle: comps, concentration picks, classes, lorries, and sheer chance, constantly rearranging who we are and who we're with and what we're chasing. Each reshuffle sparked new connections. A few classmates became best friends, mentors, co-founders, and chosen family. And running beneath it all was one constant: community, the force that carried us to this very moment. We saw community in the little things: getting food for your friend because Bon Lee did not let them into Leverett D Hall, a stealth guest on community night in Winthrop who wanted the fresh strawberries, a 2 a.m. text that simply read, "You up?" We also felt in the big moments: cheers after a classmate won a gold medal at the Olympics, roaring crowds at performances and games such as Eleganza and Harvard Yale, celebrations after a thesis submission, and just the reminder that success is measured in growth, not just grades. Yet beneath our shared victories ran a braid of unseen battles. There are international students who refuse to be identified by an F1 visa stamp, but by the bold strides they took towards their dreams. There are generational African Americans still waiting for their history to be honored with more than just a footnote by this school and the world. There are first-generation immigrant children translating life for their parents while translating themselves to America. There are low-income classmates stretching 30-hour days across lectures, 2 jobs, and wire transfers back home. We as seniors are launching into the toughest job market in years, and some of our peers are dealing with mental and emotional burdens far beyond themselves. These burdens never appear on any dashboard, yet they cost us time, opportunity, and invisible emotional toll we carry together, and yet to press on with willpower and Ubuntu. As a class, we weren't insulated from the world's turbulence. We faced a reckoning on justice, global crisis, and the pressure of a campus in flux. We witnessed 3 college presidents, saw the end of affirmative action, and even shopping week. Instead of fading quietly, we persevered, so much so that we are unofficially taking Dean Kurana with us, which frankly makes him an honorary member of the class of 2025. These individual struggles and triumphs have been woven into the fabric of our unprecedented journey as a class. Tomorrow, Harvard College is going to graduate its largest and most diverse class in its history. Some jokingly called us an admin's headache, and to be fair, we were. The college carved out an entirely new first-year yard, rewired upperclassmen housing, and rewrote dining logistics just to accommodate us. Others used kinder labels such as historic, diverse, and even the richest class. Our numbers stretched every system, yet they also became a source of energy and resilience. And amid the chaos of different ideas, characters, and beliefs, everyone found their thing. That same restless energy is what we now carry beyond the gates of Harvard, ready to test it on a larger stage. A century after James, another voice on this stage called us beyond these gates, in 1998, standing on this very stage, Nelson Mandela told the Harvard community, "One of the striking features of modern times is the emergence of men and women, and indeed of institutions that have chosen the world as the theater of their operations, as a platform from which to ventilate their thinking and ideas. Mandela was speaking of visionaries and of institutions that refuse to be small, and of people who understand that their education, their voice, and their actions do not end at the borders of their campus. Today, he could have just as easily been speaking to us. We, the class of 2025, came here under unusual skies. Some of us began behind screens, meeting professors and peers in breakout rooms during visitors, and dorm rooms that doubled as classrooms during quarantine. What we began in isolation, we finished in unity, and the story of how we got here marks us as a class of transformation. We were the first to navigate an entire college journey shaped by a global pandemic, the first to ask what education, connection, and leadership really mean in a changed world. We did not inherit the world as it was, we met it in motion, and in doing so, we became something more than just graduates. We became builders. We brought life back to Harvard Yard, reviving the once buzzing social scene of first-year dorms, not by following the traditions handed down from upperclassmen, but in every creative way you could imagine. Over the past 4 years, we have shared more than classes and exams. We've shared reckonings about justice, identity, truth, and power. Our classrooms stretch far beyond Harvard Yard to refugee camps, courtrooms, research labs, ballot boxes, streets, homeless shelters, and even protests. We were never meant to stay confined. We were meant to grow wide, deep, and global. Today, we face new trials up front, where the ideals we champion are being tested in the very structures that once supported them. And yet, it is in this tension between what is and what must be that our education finds its truest meaning. Harvard is often called a place of privilege, but privilege means little without purpose. And if this class stands for anything, it's its commitment to purpose. We are no longer students in a lecture. We are the undisciplinables James summoned. We are the actors on the stage Mandela described, and we will not enter quietly. So what do we bring to that stage? We bring strength, the kind forged in uncertainty. We bring empathy, the kind sharpened by distance and difference. We bring hope, the kind that doesn't wait for change but insists on making it. We bring Ubuntu, the spirit of shared humanity captured by I am because you are. Harvard did not choose us simply to succeed. It chose us to serve, to think boldly and act bravely, to lend strength and hope to those who might have neither, to hold doors open for others, to extend a hand when someone stumbles. The world is watching, and more than that, it is waiting for voices that carry not just intellect but integrity, waiting for courage that doesn't hide behind credentials, waiting for the first to speak up, the first to reach out, the first to build what has never been built before, the first to diverge. We are the first to meet the crisis with creativity, first to turn privilege into purpose, first to carry Ubuntu into every room we enter. We are the Harvard College class of 2025, and the world is our stage. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Thor Ryman, and I serve as one of the program marshals for the class of 2025.
My name is Sellers Hill. I'm also one of the program marshals for the class of 2025. It's often in moments of collective joy and celebration like today that the absence of a loved one is most felt. Friends, mentors, family members, and classmates. We invite you to take a moment of silence with us to honor them and acknowledge their role in shaping our lives.
Thank you. We want specifically to take a moment today to celebrate the lives and light of two of our beloved classmates, Luke Balstead and Ryan Murdoch. While they may not be with us physically, their impact has continued to resonate in our lives, and we know that as we celebrate our class, we celebrate with them too. We would like to invite the friends of Luke and Ryan to the stage to share in remembrance of them. And so first, please join me in welcoming Ava Pilata to speak in remembrance of Luke.
Around this time, 3 years ago, Luke Ballstad and I sat on the floor of his freshman dorm room giggling while we both had unfinished assignments we were meant to be working on. As our 11:59 deadlines loomed large, we found ourselves engaged in an endeavor completely unrelated to our assignments. We thought it would be funny to write a poem about dolphins to share with our friends with zero context. No one asked us to do this. Neither of us were poets, and I don't think any of our friends even laughed at our dolphin poem because it turned out horribly unfunny. But in the end, our creative muscles were stretched, our assignments still got in, and I smile every time I come across the note in my phone that says, Luke and Ava's life-changing poem about dolphins. My dolphin poem co-author, our classmate, and a dear friend, Luke Ballstad, passed away on November 14th, 2022. The night of Luke's passing, dozens gathered in Quincy House to celebrate his life, and one by one, so many of you shared beautiful anecdotes about the time you spent with Luke. Stories that spoke to his charisma, his intelligence, and his kindness. When it was my turn to speak, I couldn't find a single thing to say. But there was no shortage of wonderful things I could have said about Luke. Luke was a brilliant student who would have made a fantastic doctor one day, a deeply caring friend, son, and brother, and the best person to share a can of frosting and 2 spoons with. I could have talked about the way his eyes lit up when you asked him about his microbiome research, or how many people he made smile when he led trips hiking with the Harvard Outing Club, or how he spent a night each week working an overnight shift at the Harvard Square homeless shelter, an effort that was often sustained by a Celsius energy drink or a large Dunkin' iced coffee with no less than 8 pumps of sugary syrup. But none of those memories came to mind that night in Quincy. All I could say was, I don't know how to speak about someone I know to be so alive in the past tense. In the past 2 years, there's something I've come to appreciate about the past tense. It's the tense which allows us to celebrate Luke's life. Celebrating Luke can look like painting your nails a fun color, treating yourself to something delicious with chocolate and peanut butter, or leaving a note that makes a friend feel seen. Or it can take the form of advocacy. I am so proud of Luke's older sister, Sydney, who has organized walks and raised thousands of dollars for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention in Luke's honor. And Luke's mom, Kim, who has dedicated herself to mental health advocacy and started the Kindness for All initiative at the school which she worked in Luke's hometown, Adam Elementary School. As I finish up today, and as we celebrate Luke with these remarks, I would like to share with you all a message from Luke's mom to the graduating class. As you embark on the next chapter of your life, we want you all to know that we are cheering you on. Cheering you on because that's what Luke would be doing. Cheering you on because of the incredible humans you all are. We love you all. From Luke's earliest times, he always wanted to be part of the Harvard family. When that became a reality for him, we were beside ourselves with pride, admiration, and most of all, humble appreciation for Luke to continue to make his mark on the world in a big way. When someone of Luke's caliber accomplishes their life's dreams, you are in awe of their accomplishments. It wasn't easy. Luke advocated for all, loved all, and wanted the very best for all. We knew he was destined for great things. He was destined to change the world in extraordinary ways, ways that would impact all and make for a better world. We know now that that isn't possible through Luke's physical self, but it is possible through his spirit and through you, his Harvard family. Luke came to Harvard and found his true self. He was immediately blessed with the most amazing friends and opportunities. Thank you for loving Luke like we do. Luke is here with you, graduating with you, cheering you on, and counting on you to change forward and make a better world for all. Love big, and always and forever, love like Luke. Thank you.
now my privilege to introduce to the stage Caitlin Burney to speak in remembrance of our classmate, Ryan Murdoch.
One of the many privileges enjoyed at Harvard College is the freedom for intellectual exploration and learning. We've spent the last 4 years writing essays, analyzing literary works, researching in labs, programming and coding, and creating art. We've learned how things work, we've learned why things work, and we've learned how to make them work. But perhaps our greatest lessons didn't come from the books, didn't come from the beakers and pipettes, didn't come from the studios, but rather came from the people around us. When discussing the concept of friendship, boxing great Muhammad Ali stated, "It's not something you learn in school, but if you haven't learned the meaning of friendship, you really haven't learned anything." For the class of 2025, for many of us, we did have the opportunity to learn the meaning of friendship at school from Ryan Murdoch. Ryan taught the Harvard community more about empathy, loyalty, and sacrifice than any book ever could. Anyone who had the pleasure of interacting with Ryan knows that he exemplified the true meaning of friendship in everything he did. He was such a loving, kind-hearted, funny individual whose presence is deeply missed on campus. Everything he did was out of love for neighbor and community. Ryan and his passion for justice and fairness were woven into every thread of Harvard life. He was such an integral part of the Earth and Planetary Sciences concentration, the government department, the Harvard Undergraduate for Bipartisan Solutions community, the Harvard Undergraduate Disability Justice Club, the Harvard Catholic Center, and Dunster House, to name a few. I truly wish I had the opportunity to get to know Ryan in a more complete way, beyond our conversations in the 4th floor West hallway or the Dunster dining hall. Speaking with some of his closest friends, it became so evident how dedicated, persistent, involved, and zealous he was. A prime example is how Ryan worked fervently on a group project throughout his illness, even planning on learning a new coding language in order to contribute to the group. But that was Ryan, going above and beyond, dedicated to his studies, yes, but more importantly, to his friends. Living just a few doors down from Ryan during our junior year, I was able to see his smiling face multiple times each day. He was an incredible listener, advocate, and friend. Always there to listen to my quick stress rants about my day or simply sit down for a meal in the dining hall together, Ryan provided a smile, a joke, and the willingness to listen. He was one of those people who would sit in the dining hall and could talk to anyone. I know people who would go to the Dunster D Hall specifically for that reason, describing a typical encounter with Ryan as an easygoing conversation involving some sort of sports chat, with Ryan intently listening to your life and providing suggestions, followed by his updates on environmental policy or progress for justice. And then it was all neatly tied in a perfect little bow via some quippy joke or remark from Ryan and his famous sense of humor. Ryan is deeply missed at Harvard, but his legacy will forever live on in all the lives he has touched. So as we sit here at Class Day and commencement, let our diplomas represent the tremendous accomplishments and lessons we have learned from our professors and instructors. But more importantly, let the friendships we have cultivated in our classmates represent what we learned about life. And for so many of us, those lessons were learned from Ryan Murdoch.
Thank you both for sharing those reflections. My name is Christopher Hidalgo, and I'm a program marshal for the class of 2025.
My name is Michael Waxman, and I'm also a program marshal for the class of 2025.
Today, it is our distinct honor to introduce the recipients of the Richard Glover and Henry Russell Ames Memorial Award. The class of 2025 is comprised of countless individuals who have dedicated their college careers to serving others within the Harvard community and beyond. Despite the impact of their efforts, they often go unacknowledged by our broader community. As such, the purpose and spirit of the Ames Award is to finally shine a light on two unsung heroes for the class of 2025.
On June 19th, 1935, Richard Glover Ames and Henry Russell Ames, brothers and Harvard students, gave their lives to save their father, who was washed overboard during a storm off the coast of Newfoundland. Every year since, the Ames Award has been given in their memory to recognize two members of our class who have shown energy in helping others and who exhibit the same heroic character and inspiring leadership as the Ames brothers. The selection committee received a large number of nominations from faculty, faculty deans, tutors, coaches, and fellow students.
I have the honor of introducing the first of our two Ames Award recipients. I first had the privilege of meeting him in our pre-orientation program, FIRE, for first-generation and low-income students matriculating to the college. Despite also being new to campus and being online, he soon cemented his position as a leader among us, culminating in his appointment as co-chair of FIRE last year to welcome Harvard's class of 2028. During his tenure, for which he is described by Dean Altomaro as a steward of our work to build community at Harvard College, he helped raise funds for the program, ensuring its successful continuance. Aside from his advocacy and leadership with the Harvard Foundation, he also dedicated his time to PBHA, namely as co-director of the South Boston Outreach Summer Program, Resource Development Chair, Programming Chair, and more recently, as an officer for the Senior Gives Committee. Through these programs, he has reaffirmed his commitment to and love for all communities at Harvard and beyond. The young students he was in charge of repeatedly shared their love for him, his leadership, compassion, and kindness. His passion for building community extends from his house to his leadership within the QSA and the Quaffis, and everywhere in between. I do not exaggerate when I say that he has the unique ability to make every space he is in feel more welcoming, more loving, and more joyful. His presence uplifts those around him, and his tireless dedication to service and inclusion has left an indelible mark on our campus. He has shown his peers how to lead with love, find joy in everything, and how to persevere even in the bleakest moments. He is an inspiration to all those who have the privilege of knowing him and a blessing to all those who have the honor of being his friend. He is the full embodiment of what this award represents. Please join me in welcoming our first Ames Award winner to the stage, Byron Gonzalez.
Byron, if you're out there, come on up. There he is! All right. It is my privilege to introduce the second of our two distinguished Ames Award honorees. This awardee has dedicated herself to public service in a way that transcends titles and positions, becoming a true pillar of the communities she serves. As vice president of the Phillips Brooks House Association, she co-led a 22-person officer team through a critical period of recovery, rebuilding PBHA's operations and programming after the disruptions of the pandemic. She brought structure and vision to her work, introducing innovative grants to support student-led reflections, building tracking systems to boost volunteer engagement, and guiding over 80 student leaders through the challenges of leading during a time of significant change. Her commitment to service extends far beyond organizational strategy. She has directed the Cambridge Youth Enrichment Program, supporting low-income youth through summer camps and year-round programming. In this role, she recruited and trained staff, raised critical funds to expand the program, and formed deep, lasting connections with the children and families she served. She continued this work through the academic year, ensuring that her students had the consistency and care that they needed to thrive. What truly sets this awardee apart is her ability to lead with empathy and resilience in the face of complex challenges. During moments of intense campus debate, including discussions around affirmative action in the war in Gaza, she created spaces for open dialogue, helping others find common ground even when tensions were high. She navigated these moments with humility, courage, and a commitment to creating a supportive environment for her peers, demonstrating a rare blend of compassion and moral conviction. Through all of this, she has remained humble, reflective, and deeply committed to the values of service and social justice. She listens deeply, acts with integrity, and brings out the best in those around her, embodying the spirit of servant leadership that this award celebrates. Please join me in welcoming our second Ames Award winner to the stage, Talia Levitz.
Marco.
Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't a pool party. This is class day. We need to focus. Now, everyone with me. Hi, everyone. This is Reza Shamji.
And this is Saba Mirzad, and we are two of the program marshals of the class of 2025.
If you know us, you know that we love attention.
Yeah, you do.
But unfortunately, this time isn't for us. We're here to introduce Marco Burstein. He's delivering the Ivy Oration, which is a profound and playful reflection on our journey here at Harvard.
You know, I kind of like to think I'm like Marco.
How so?
Computer science concentration, economics secondary, Lowell House, Los Angeles.
I think you forgot something really important. He's actually funny.
Yeah, you're right.
At Harvard, Marco has taken advantage of the breadth of opportunities on and off campus. He was treasurer for the Lowell HOCO, narthex of the Harvard Lampoon, which he described as a, quote, pick-me way of saying social chair, and is currently working as a software engineer for a Harvard-founded unicorn startup called Mercor.
We are so excited to hear from Marco, but first we have a few disclaimers. Disclaimer number 1, parents, you may not understand all the jokes, but it's socially acceptable to laugh along.
Disclaimer number 2, Harvard, we love you. During Marco's speech, I promise we're laughing with you.
And disclaimer number 3, this speech may trigger strong emotions. Side effects may include flashbacks, like realizing who your real friends are at Tasty Basty, or face planting on the stairs of the Lampoon, Or maybe even some of your best memories, like Uzma said, the White Lies Party. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce my friend and the Ivy Orator, Marco Polo.
He means Marco Burstein.
Thank you, Saba and Reza. Tough act to follow. Students, parents, and professors seeing me for the first time this semester. Hello and welcome to the Harvard Ivy Oration. My name is Marco. You may recognize me from the Name Pronunciations tab on Canvas. And before we begin, I know what you're all thinking. I entirely understand the purpose and value of the Harvard Ivy Oration, and I am so glad that this random person in particular is giving a speech instead of me or my child. Great point. Couldn't have said it better myself. But for anyone who isn't on the same wavelength and is wondering, who is this guy? Why is he the one giving the speech? Well, don't worry. This is just practice for when you have the exact same questions for our actual commencement speaker tomorrow morning. If you're still confused, you can think of the Ivy speech as the Harvard graduation equivalent of the beloved silly photo. It's theoretically funny, and it's mostly unnecessary. Still, there's a lot to cover, because there's so much that makes a Harvard experience special. You guys know, Visitas, River Run, Housing Day, the doxing truck that drives around with a square with your name and face on it, Harvard-Yale, suing the executive branch of the federal government, Annenberg. I could go on, so many things. We've survived 3 Harvard presidencies, including President Garber, who's already left his mark. He's the first person in the world to discover that if you're Harvard president, nobody can stop you from calling a bi-weekly Zoom meeting a task force. It's really incredible. Other names have changed too. We've witnessed the birth of the controversial Kenneth C. Griffin Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, as well as the weirdly uncontroversial Luigi Mangione Center for Career Success. And parents, just after you made your last tuition payments, Harvard announced that its price is going 100% off next September for most families, finally joining the same league as other great American institutions like Party City or Joanne Fabrics. No, but really, parents, I want to be clear. I'm laughing with you. I can really relate. You guys paid full tuition for Harvard in 2025. One day, I bought a mattress the day before President's Day. It's kind of the same idea. So with all that going on, it's easy to lose track of what really matters around here. Instead of focusing on all that drama, I'd like to spend the rest of the speech on just one simple question. It's a question that comes from the very start of our collective Harvard experience. It's a question that many of you forgot about long ago. And it's a question that none of you are going to expect me to address, because this question comes from a scene in the hit 2001 chick flick Legally Blonde. For anyone who hasn't seen the movie, in the most famous moment of Legally Blonde, the main character, Elle Woods, runs into her ex-boyfriend at Harvard. And he's surprised to see her there. And so she asks him, "What, like it's hard?" When this scene played on those Widener steps at freshman orientation, everybody started cheering. Of course it won't be hard, we all thought to ourselves. I was student body president in high school. Obviously I'm gonna stand out here too. I even started a holiday toy drive for underprivileged inner city youth. I got this. Now, as our movie together comes to a close, I would like to revise my answer to this question. Was what, like it's hard? Yes, actually. Harvard was kind of hard. And more importantly, I think that's how it should be. Regardless of who you are or how you got here, the last 4 years have been tense, to say the least. Gates to the yard were locked as our school became headline news, and reporters descended upon our campus. We were at the first-year formal when Roe v. Wade was overturned. The Love Pop origami greeting card store has outlasted Shopping Week, linking groups, and the entire presidency of Claudine Gay. Back when we were all worrying about COVID, I wore a KN95 mask to Mather Lather. For any parents wondering, that's a soap-themed party. My point is, it's been a confusing ride. And so many parts of Harvard feel like they were designed to be difficult. Our wine society has a comp. Our Crimson Key Society has a comp. This graduation is held in Tercentenary Theater, which is just a fancy way of saying 300 years, which is just a fancy way of saying how long commencement takes. At times, many of us have felt lost. We've questioned our career paths and our futures. We've looked to Harvard for guidance, and they gave us Passio Go. So yes, Harvard has been challenging. But maybe that's a good thing. I mean, for one, Harvard's pressures have taught us to think for ourselves instead of following the crowd. So much can change if you just shift your point of view. For instance, on December 8th, 2023, the Crimson published the headline, "Breaking, Harvard President Interrogated by Congress." But that same day, the Crimson's Flyby blog published ranking the top 10 yogurt flavors at Berryline with 2 exclamation points. And that same day, this is completely true, The Independent published a pie chart of their favorite sex positions where the percentages add up to 112. It's all about perspective. And Harvard pushes you to work even harder by surrounding you with incredible people. Look to your left. Look to your right. Some of these people are still doing Model United Nations. Wow. They work so hard every time they have to make eye contact. It's incredible. Some of the people around you are on the YardFest Artist Selection Committee. They put so much effort into every other thing going on in their lives. And they teach us how to live with disappointment. Just the other day, I was imagining how hard Chappell Roan would have gone at YardFest. You guys know that one song with the TikTok dance and the hand motions? You know what I'm talking about? Panopto. I took that class on Panopto. And for any extension school students who are confused right now, those letters I spelled out in the first line spell Panopto. Before we go any further, I want to quickly apologize to any parents in the audience. I know a lot of the references in this speech are very Harvard specific, and that's pretty unfair because only like 80% of you went here. So for those of you who didn't go here, I just wanted to say thank you so much for donating that building. I really enjoyed watching the recordings of the lectures that took place there. So yes, Harvard has been hard. But on the bright side, Harvard also teaches you that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. This is another completely true story. Our sophomore year, I filled out data match, and I was so excited. I was finally going to get a girl's email address, and I opened the results, and they matched me with myself. This hurt a lot in the moment, but it taught me a valuable lesson about how I really needed to focus on me that year. It's a learning moment. Or another time, I lost a fantasy football league, and then as punishment, I had to eat 3 plates of Hud's beef fajita fettuccine Alfredo. And then I got 102-degree fever. So I went to HUHS, and they wrote me a prescription that just said, turn that frown upside down. What a great learning opportunity. Or just this month, Harvard lost $2.2 billion in federal funding. But on the bright side, we were able to balance the budget by permanently closing the Barker Cafe. Learning moment. I used to think a cafe that charged $18 for an iced Americano would be profitable. I will admit, I was wrong. It's moments like these that help us transform into citizens and citizen leaders for society. To summarize, what I'm trying to say is, yes, Harvard has been hard, and that's okay. Jokes aside, the past 4 years have been unprecedented, to say the least. But if I've learned anything from my own time here, it's that you can't grow without being challenged. You can't learn without admitting what you don't know. And you can't become someone new without losing a bit of who you used to be. I hope we all come to embrace the pressures of a changing college in an evolving world. To drive this point home, I would like to read a line that resonated with me from a paper by former President Claudine Gay. As she so profoundly wrote, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." If you found the past 4 years to be easy, Congratulations on your Harvard History of Science degree. I am sure that employers will love you just as much as they love students with a Harvard Present Day of Science degree. But if you found parts of Harvard to be hard, then you should be proud. It's Harvard. It's supposed to be hard. At the end of Legally Blonde, Elle Woods gives a speech at her own graduation. Her advice is to believe in others and believe in yourself. As we go through the rest of commencement, I'm sure we'll hear similar words of wisdom repeated elsewhere. Follow your passion, you are the future, this sort of thing. All great advice. But I would like to instead conclude with something much more direct, and something that I learned from Harvard itself over the past 4 years. I hope we all go out into the world and fail. I hope we all make mistakes. I hope we swing for the fences and miss sometimes. Because we all want to become someone, or do something, or be somewhere, and we're not going to get there by taking the easy way out. I hope we challenge ourselves, and I hope we all keep learning. In other words, I hope we continue to live the rest of our lives like Harvard, like it's hard. Thank you, everyone. Congratulations and good luck out there.
Now that was a hard act to follow. Hello, everyone. My name is Henry Schwan, and I have the honor of serving one of the class of 2025 class marshals.
And my name is Anish Mupadi. I serve as the treasurer for the class of 2025.
Today, we have the pleasure of announcing our class of 2025 Class Day speaker. Legendary basketball player, writer, and champion of social justice, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Standing at 7 feet and 2 inches, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is used to towering over his competition. But his accomplishments reach even higher. Over an extraordinary 20-year NBA career, he scored over 38,387 points. He's held the all-time scoring record for nearly 4 decades, longer than most of us have been alive. Much of that scoring came courtesy of his signature move, the skyhook, an unblockable, graceful shot that became one of the most iconic weapons in basketball history. He's a 19-time NBA All-Star, a 6-time NBA champion, and the only player in the league to win 6 MVP awards. He's widely regarded as one of the greatest athletes of all time. And that's just his first career.
Since retiring from the NBA, Kareem has continued to use his platform to advocate for social justice, education, and racial equality. Building on a lifelong commitment that began in his youth in New York and extended through his championship years on the courts, has become one of the most outspoken and respected voices addressing racism, inequality, and beyond.
Throughout his life, he's remained steadfast in using his voice, whether through protest, print, or personal example, to uplift his people and challenge this nation to live up to its ideals. In 2021, the NBA created the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Social Justice Champion Award, given annually to an NBA player who embodies Kareem's commitment to social equality and the use what I have mentality to help others. The winner of this reward receives $100,000 for their charity of choice.
He is also a prolific and best-selling author of 20 books, including his newly released, quote, "We All Want to Change the World, My Journey Through Social Justice Movements from the 1960s to Today," which shares a powerful account of the protest movements that have reshaped this country.
Kareem's impact on culture and society are as towering as his frame. He's the founder of the Skyhook Foundation, which brings STEM education to underserved communities, giving kids a shot that can't be blocked. He's a two-time Emmy-nominated narrator and also the recipient of the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal.
In recognition of his lifelong contribution beyond the hardwood, former President Barack Obama awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the United States' highest civilian honor.
Kareem's life is proof that one can be multidimensional. A sports hero, a Black cultural icon, a devout Muslim, a writer, a teacher, and a social critic all at once. From dominating courts with grace to educating minds with purpose, his greatness isn't measured in rings or records, but in wisdom, integrity, and the courage to stand tall when it matters the most.
And fun fact, he's also a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes. He's written a whole series on detective fiction, and he's guest starred on both The Big Bang Theory and Billions. So yes, he really does do it all.
And now, from the Los Angeles Lakers
and the Milwaukee Bucks,
please join us in welcoming
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar!
Thank you so much for that wonderful reception. I think you should know, I was a student here in the early 70s. I went to summer school, took a semester of Arabic. It was a really great experience. Made some good friends and learned some things about Boston that didn't have anything to do with basketball. In 1989, I retired from professional basketball. Retiring from basketball was a lot like graduating from college. There were cheering crowds, a deep sense of accomplishment, and funny clothes. Though I admit that academic robes are much classier than Laker tank tops and shorts. And you don't need a jockstrap. But maybe like some of you, oh, I'm sorry. The pages get stuck together. All right. Another striking example between retiring at 42 and graduating in your early 20s is that there's a nervous trepidation about the future. Where do I go from here? Who do I want to be? There's so much pressure after a major accomplishment for us to go on and do even more greater things. Every success demands more success. The American ethos seems to say that if you're not climbing toward success, you're sliding toward failure. But maybe like some of you, I didn't know what I was going to do next. I hadn't yet determined what the next success would look like for me. There aren't many options when you're 7'2". For a while, I wanted to start my own donut shop franchise and call it Slam Dunkin' Donuts. But there were some trademark issues. Then there was my men's cologne, Flagrant Foul. And that never caught on at all. So, what does skyhooking a ball through a hoop have to do with writing eloquent sentences, nuanced metaphors, and a keen social insight? Well, you never know. But I wasn't concerned with other people's definition of being a successful writer. I was focused on my own definition of success. And I chose writing as what I wanted to do as I was trying to find my place in the world. It was scary to start a new career doing something in which I could fail miserably. Not many people, even my fans, probably expected me to succeed as a writer. After all, what does skyhooking a ball through a hoop have to do with eloquent sentences, nuanced metaphors, and keen social insights? But I wasn't concerned with other people's definition of being a successful writer. I was focused on my own definition of success. While I did want to make a living as a writer, I didn't want to just sell books. Making money wasn't my main measure of success. I wanted to do something that embraced all of my passions, my lifelong interest in history, my political and social activism in seeking civil rights for all marginalized people, and my love of entertaining people, which I had been doing as a basketball player for nearly 30 years. I also acted in movies like Airplane, where I scolded a little boy, and The Game of Death, where Bruce Lee broke my really cool sunglasses. During my new career as a writer, which has already lasted longer than my career as a professional basketball player, I wrote a lot of books about the history of the ignored contributions to America of Black Americans. I wrote a book about an all-black tank unit in World War II. I wrote a children's book about inventions by Black inventors that affected our daily lives. I wrote a book about the lasting impact of the Harlem Renaissance on American culture. And I wrote several novels about Sherlock Holmes' older and smarter brother, Mycroft, and I made his sidekick, Cyrus Douglas, Black. My idea of success has never been accolades or cheering fans, although I have enjoyed those experiences. My idea of success was forged while walking through my neighborhood as a kid beside my dad, who was a decorated police officer. Seeing how the people in our community appreciated his dedication to making them feel safe made me want to make people feel the same way. Even though I took a different path than my dad, I still wanted to contribute to nudging people toward the America that I envisioned, one where everyone felt safe and valuable. Two things happened to me when I was 20 years old that inspired my vision of America and irrevocably put me on the path that brought me here today to this microphone at Harvard. First, I was asked to join a handful of famous Black athletes and athletes in what would become known as the Cleveland Summit. Among those who participated were Bill Russell, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, and my personal hero. And Jim Brown, one of the greatest football players of all time, who'd gone on to have a prominent career as a Hollywood actor. I was just a scrawny kid who had just started to make a name for himself and was completely intimidated by the others on the panel. But there I was, being asked to join them in interviewing Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer in the world, to determine whether his refusal to submit to the draft as a conscientious objector was sincere. This was in 1967, when the Vietnam War was at its height. The US had drafted over 200,000 men that year. At first, several of the other Black athletes, some who had served in the military, were skeptical of Ali. However, after talking extensively with him, we all agreed that he was acting out of his conscience. and we said so publicly. Nonetheless, 3 weeks later, Ali was convicted of draft evasion, sentenced to 5 years in prison, fined $10,000, and banned from boxing for 3 years. At that time, Ali was one of the most beloved people in the black community because he was fearless in being outspoken about racism and the Vietnam War. Many in the white community villainized him as an uppity black man who did not know his place. Since they couldn't beat him in the boxing ring, they tried to beat him in the courts. However, 4 years later, the US Supreme Court agreed with us and unanimously overturned Ali's conviction. But the damage to his career had been done, and a warning shot had been fired to cower anyone who wanted to speak out against racism and injustice. Within months of the summit, I turned down an invitation to participate as part of the US basketball team in the 1968 Olympics. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated that April, and civil rights for black people was starting to feel like a fading dream. The summer before the Olympics became known as the Long Hot Summer of 1967, during which over 150 race rebellions took place in cities across our country. By September, 83 people had been killed, thousands were injured, and entire black neighborhoods had been burned to the ground. Yes, being part of the Olympics would have been a great boost to my career, as well as fulfilling a childhood dream of mine. But I couldn't bring myself to become a smiling symbol of the promise of the United States to be a multiracial democracy when it was doing everything it could not to fulfill that promise. I feared my participation would seem like an endorsement of these foot-dragging policies that told marginalized to wait their turn for basic human rights. My decision turned me into the same pariah as Ali, with many admonishing me for not being more grateful and others sending death threats. But after my experience at the Cleveland Summit, how could I do anything less than Muhammad Ali? When I graduated from UCLA, the next year I entered the NBA, and my career path had been set for the next 20 years. During the many records I set and a whole lot of championship rings, my achievements as a basketball player were unrelated to my main goal to be as successful as I could as a member of the black community, as an American, and as a human being. To achieve that kind of success, I embraced the quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who I met while I was in high school and who became a great influence on me. He said, "Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals." He sure didn't sugarcoat it. But when Dr. King said dedicated individuals, he didn't expect everyone to drop whatever plans they had for the future and start marching through the streets singing, "We shall overcome." What he meant was that whenever you have an opportunity to choose justice over injustice, you are choosing who you are as a person. Try to remember, the more times you choose justice, the better the world becomes, and the better you become. Choosing justice often comes with a risk, sometimes monetary, by refusing to do what a corrupt boss demands, sometimes physical, by refusing to go along with the mob, like those who defended the Capitol building against insurrectionists on January 6th. Maybe it means voting on... Thank you. Maybe it means voting on the side of equality and human rights. Maybe it means getting others to vote. Maybe it means verbally admonishing a friend or relative whenever they make a remark that is racist, sexist, or homophobic. And maybe it means sometimes marching through the streets, singing, we shall overcome. You have to decide whether you're part of the old-timey fire brigades, passing buckets of water down a long line of people trying to put out a fire, or if you're content to stand by and let it burn. Here's an example of what Dr. King meant by describing human progress as a long-term Sisyphean struggle to shove the social justice boulder up a hill of complacency. Everyone here knows who Rosa Parks is. According to a survey of 11th and 12th grade students, Rosa Parks is the second most popular historical figure in America, following Dr. King. But how much do you really know about her? We were all taught that in 1955, she refused to give up her bus seat to a white man as the law required, and that her defiance led to the Montgomery bus boycott, which ended in the integration of the bus system, which was a major milestone for civil rights. All that is true, but it is not the complete story. It's the place where the Hollywood movie would end, with Dr. King and Rosa Parks raising their jubilant fists to a crowd, and Rosa Parks shouting, "This is just the beginning." Roll credits. However, the truth is that during the year after the strike ended, black bus riders were shot at and physically attacked. The violence got so bad that at first the bus service was canceled after 5 p.m. Then the entire service was canceled. Worse, the homes of Dr. King, Ralph Abernathy, and president of the local NAACP chapter, E.D. Nixon, were bombed. As an outraged crowd gathered outside Dr. King's home, he tried to quiet them. Be calm, as I and my family are. We are not hurt, and remember that if anything happens to me, there will be others to take my place. 7 white men were tried for the bombings, and to no one's surprise, acquitted. But the trials themselves calmed the violence, and the buses ran again with few incidents. The cold, hard truth that people struggle to accept is that when it comes to fighting injustice, the war is never won. It is a never-ending battle that must be fought over and over. Whether it's being beaten in Selma, Alabama in 1965, or being beaten 60 years later on an American university campus in 2025, the struggle is as ongoing as it is inevitable. What affected me most about Dr. King's reaction to his home being bombed was his comment, "Remember that if anything happens to me, there will be others to take my place." He was so confident that the others would step in the fight against injustice. I have always admired his faith in people to do the right thing. One of the reasons I'm so pleased to be here today is because I view Harvard University as being among the others, willing to take Dr. King's place. When a tyrannical administration tried to bully and threaten Harvard to give up their academic freedom and destroy free speech, Dr. Alan Garber rejected the illegal and immoral pressures the way Rosa Parks defined the entire way of 1965. After seeing so many cowering billionaires, media moguls, law firms, politicians, and other universities bend their knee to an administration that is systematically strip mining the U.S. Constitution, it is inspiring to me to see Harvard University take a stand for freedom. Reading Dr. Garber's defiant refusal to succumb to fear gives me hope that there are still people willing to take Dr. King's place. As I look out over the crowd of eager faces today who are ready to launch their lives of successful careers, I wonder how many of you will be among the others willing to take Dr. King's place. You will leave here with a Harvard degree, which is a great launching pad for financial success. But will you also embrace the Harvard ideal of courage and of a broader, richer, more fulfilling definition of success? Will you be one of Dr. King's others? As for me, I will continue to pursue my version of success. I still have hopes for my flagrant foul cologne, and there's a new slogan I just wrote. If it smells foul, it's flagrant. It's been great talking to you this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Can we give it up one more time for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Consider this my personal petition to bring him back to the Lakers. Hi, everyone. My name is Shrija Vem, and I'm so honored to have served as a second-class marshal for the class of 2025 this year. Alongside a wonderful class committee and, of course, the first Marshal Uzma. As we begin, a couple thank yous are in order. First of all, thank you to my parents, my family, Amma Nana Shrihita, my dad, Venu Vem, my mom, Madhavi Vem, and my sister, Shrihita Vem, for always pushing me to love learning, for teaching me that anything is possible, and for waking me up at 5 a.m. this morning, so eager that there was an omelet bar at the hotel we were staying at. My sister has been there for me through every single moment of this life and picked up every phone call I've given her through college, and I'm so grateful for her. And of course, a huge thank you to John Prince for helping us through every step of this year. And finally, a thank you to Harvard faculty, HUD staff, and the custodial staff for making sure we were able to thrive during our 4 years here. All right. This is crazy. In 24 hours, we'll have received our diplomas and be official graduates of Harvard College. A very notable achievement. But before we wrap up class day, I wanted to tell you all a story. A story of how, on my first day at Harvard, I showed up late. I had spent too long hesitating at the door, wondering how I got from my small apartment in Hoover, Alabama, 1,000 miles away, to the Northwest Science Building at the Harvard University. But I showed up anyways. Awkward, uncertain, and already 5 minutes behind. What I didn't realize then is that just showing up would be the hardest and most important thing I do here. Because there are moments when showing up feels easy, when excitement propels us forward, when we're surrounded by friends, when the world seems full of possibility. And then there are moments when showing up is the hardest thing we can do. For me, that moment came in March of our freshman year, when a car accident, a twist of fate, took two of my childhood friends, Madhav and Om, from me. It came again a couple months later in August, when a rip current took my best friend of a decade, Ria, from me. And again in November of 2022 when we lost Luke, and again in October of 2024 when we lost Ryan, both of whom should be graduating with us today. In a few months, I had lost 5 people I always thought I was promised forever with. Forever had lost all meaning. In the days and months that followed, I found myself with the simplest decision. Do I show up? And yet, I tried to. Not perfectly, and far from gracefully, but I tried to show up. And in that, I learned something. Showing up is a choice, and it's the most important choice we can make. Because when we couldn't show up for ourselves, our friends did. When we didn't have the strength to be present, our professors, mentors, community members made space anyways. And I realized showing up isn't just about us. It's about the connections we form when we do. And it turns out the science backs this up. As a neuroscience concentrator, I've spent the past couple of years studying synapses, these tiny microscopic spaces between neurons where information travels. Every thought, action, decision depends on these connections. But here's the thing. A synapse only strengthens when it's used. So if we keep showing up, keep firing that signal, the connection strengthens. If we stop, the connection weakens. And that's true not just for neurons. It's true for people, for relationships, for change. But here's the thing, those connections don't just end with us. Because Harvard didn't just teach us how to show up for ourselves or for each other, it taught us how to show up for the world. This place has never just been a collection of buildings in Cambridge. It's a node in the vast network, a place where ideas don't just live in classrooms, but they ripple outwards, to communities, to policies, to people we may never meet. And that means showing up is more than just a personal act. It's a responsibility. And we, the class of 2025, have already shown up when it matters most. We arrived on campus as the world was still reeling in from a global pandemic. We navigated years of upheaval, political, social, environmental. We debated monumental Supreme Court decisions in dining halls, watched the chaos of a presidential election from Sanders Theater, got doxxed for our beliefs, reckoned with research budget cuts, and even stood up against the federal government itself. And still, we showed up to learn, to challenge, to build, to listen. And as we gather here today, I want to take a moment to recognize one of our classmates who truly embodies this very spirit of showing up, our classmate, Ben Abercrombie. Many of you may know Ben's story. After suffering a spinal cord injury at a football game for Harvard, he was left paralyzed. But he never gave up. Through years of rehabilitation and courage without bounds, Ben has continued his Harvard journey, showing up day after day and graduating with the class of 2025 here today. And the most full circle part of it all, Ben and I are both alumni of Hoover High School, your favorite city in the United States. Ben's journey shows us that showing up isn't about having the path all figured out. It's about being present in the moments that matter most. Soon, we'll leave Harvard. And wherever we go, whatever city, hospital, classroom, or courtroom, we won't always have the right words. We won't always have the right answers. We may even be late. But if we just keep showing up, again and again, for the people who need us, for the ideas that matter, for ourselves, and for the world waiting beyond these gates, that will be enough. My best friend, Ria, once told me. She gave me a piece of advice that I wanted to share here today. So class of 2025, show up. Call your grandparents and tell them you love them. Strut confidently into the middle of a dance circle. Hold your hand up high and ask the questions your peers are afraid to ask. Talk with people who disagree with you. Celebrate the small things as much as the big ones. Use your voice and actions to inspire meaningful change. Turn the I should haves into I dids so that your fantasies become a reality. That is seizing the day. That is showing up. Because every movement, every discovery, every meaningful moment in history started the exact same way. With someone, like us, deciding to show up. So congratulations, class of 2025. Let's go show up for the rest of our lives. And now, before we end, I wanted to welcome in our class ode speakers to deliver an ode that we'll all sing along to. It's found on the back of your programs. So welcome up to the stage, Fahim Ahmed, Ari Cherian, Roseanne Ocampo Strategis, Henry Wu, and Peggy Yin.
tears flowed over due to our big class. The gappers, though old, won our hearts. And with enough credits, we managed to pass at a small college of liberal arts. We followed our dreams, used side chat for memes, and Rally the cat still alive. Now we're all out of words that reflect our rhyme schemes. So congrats and farewell, 25.
And with that comes to a close of our 2025 Class Day exercises. Thank you, everybody.